man, what's going on, Tom?
Not much, man. You got the fancy new outfit,
Oh
the
man,
outlay, the pad.
yeah, the poster, the vintage hand drawn. Well, I shouldn't even say vintage. Just the I have this obsession with handmade posters.
I gotcha.
It goes back to my days as a graphic design student in my wee youth, and have you ever seen those liquor commercial posters from like the 1800s, early
I've
1900s from France?
I've got a Tattinger champagne poster in my
Totally.
dining room.
Right. And I'm obsessed with that genre of it was the birth of modern advertising, essentially.
You know,
like, you know what I mean?
You know what? I really like the absinthe ones too. All the
Oh
absinthe
man.
ones are just amazing.
Well, there was that one poster that everybody got really big. That devil, the Maureen, that people usually get at like wall size. And those things really were posters meant for buildings, right? Like they were big, you know, like things. But man, they're just so pretty. And like, my wife is like, you're going to put up like 800 posters. It's like your office. Why don't you put up like one or two? I'm like, because like
because it's my office.
Yeah. Well, the visual density of those posters is kind of probably how you might have seen one of those posters in the wild, right? Like with a bunch of other stuff.
Think about New York City billboards. They're everywhere in Times Square, you know?
Yeah, there's just like there's a beauty in the context of a bunch of them put together, and you know what I mean. Like it becomes the another piece, right? Like you know how I mean musicians always say like the 13th song is the album itself. You know, like like I kind of feel like having a blank wall like this with a bunch of stuff is kind of like my 13th song. I'm like, well, okay, so I've got all these things, but like, what could I make with this whole thing? Like,
I gotcha.
You know. Anyway, what are you up to?
Man, I got so much shit going on. We got the I'm in the second copy edit round of my cupping book, so we're nearing the finish line.
Nearing.
You know, I got to get some layout done. We got to put the photos in, and then design a cover, and then pretty much it's book launch time.
Yeah, we should definitely have a book launch party for you there, buddy.
I definitely am. I've already been prodded, and the company I'm using is all about the promotion. You know, they're like, you know, get the book done. Yes, we'll help you with all that, but we're already in pre-marketing.
Nice. Okay. Well, hey, listen, man, rock and roll.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, definitely looking forward to that. So I'll bend this one into a segue, right?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Bend this a little bit.
Square peg, round hole. Let's do it.
Well, not sort of square peg.
We're getting there.
Rhomboid.
We're getting there.
Yeah, right. Or round peg, oval hole kind of thing.
It's tangential. It's tangential.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to write a book, right? Okay, so you're going to write it, and you know, some douchebag out there is going to be like, oh, the book is biased, whatever. Yeah, of course it's biased because it's written by
I wrote
fucking human, right? And then, you know, you're going to get people commenting on it left and right. But eventually, if, you know, if the stars align and it all works out, somebody's going to end up quoting you, right? Like there's going to be a news article out there that's going to totally quote you. And see what I said? It's square, round peg, oval.
You're getting there. You know, seen that? Have you seen that TikTok or Instagram video where they got a guy with that kid toy that, you know, all the shapes in the top, and then you put the hole, you know, the shape in the hole, and like he's like, where does the square go? Oh, that's right, it goes in the oval hole. And there's a woman just having a breakdown because everything can fit in the oval hole.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. So somebody's going to quote you, and like, what do you want to bet? Well, I don't even have to. There is a 50-50 shot that somebody's going to use that information completely not the way you wanted it to be used, or that you intended, I should say.
Well, you know, I'm hoping that anyone that reads it, or anyone that is like using it like that is trying to disprove me, you know, because it's such a funny thing where I'm writing about a 4,000-year-old, you know, health practice,
Sure.
and one that has been studied pretty intensely during modern times. So I don't think anything I'm saying is inflammatory or can be weaponized, which I think is kind of where we're going here, you know?
So you for sure stand a lesser risk, I would say, because of what you're writing about. And that's a totally valid point.
Point, yeah.
But you're still throwing your hat in the ring of content creation. And like nowadays, the problem with that and is that you've got a lot of people that do earnest research that was well intended, even well designed sometimes, right? And the news has zero interest in representing that information accurately.
Absolutely not. And you know, I know we're getting to the topic today, but case in point, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, I was on our local CBS News for our cold plunge.
Oh, right.
You know, and I think I told you how pissed I was about this because it wasn't Dr. Tom Ingenio. It was, hey, this guy owns this place with a cold plunge.
Yeah.
And
no credibility.
They pulled up a PT who said, yeah, there's not much research on this. And I'm like, well, hold on. She quoted one study, but it was the study that was arguing her point. She didn't look at any of the other studies and said there's no studies. And they ended on that. And I couldn't go off. My social media manager will keep me from committing social media suicide. But I almost took a swing at the local CBS affiliate. Like, how effing dare you? By the way, you mentioned about 3 times the hospital system that PT works at. Could it be because every commercial that hospital has advertisement? Could it be because if they come and do the shit at my office, they're not going to that hospital? And I felt fucking set up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
you know,
but see, that's the point. Like those people, I mean, I guess let's normalize this a little bit, right?
Well, okay, please.
Like most reporters are not great.
Well,
right?
But I gotta say, like the reporter we had was lovely. I had a great time with her, but the way the segment was edited, the comments that they cut out of my section, the comments they added in her section painted a very different picture of what I said.
And but the reporters have to do with that too, right? Like they're part of that editing process, right? Like it's not.
I don't know because I know a few people that have done a lot more. Online television appearances. They've been on, whatever, CNN and they're like, look, you say what you say, and they might only give you 3 minutes if you're even having a debate, and they cut where they think they're going to have the biggest, gotcha kind of situation. And I remember I did. I don't know if you remember this. They had the relax drinks as kind of the counter to like the Four Locos and all that, right? And I remember I got involved and I was on national news for this, which was kind of funny. They sent a camera out and it wasn't the normal, like, here's your local reporter. There's like, no, this will be on the national. And at the time, the Marley family of the famous Bob Marley and the Wailers had an anti-energy drink out, and it had melatonin in it. It had like a bunch of calming herbs in it, and it tasted like a mocha.
Okay.
So I remember.
Sweet. I want one now. Like now, I want one.
They took.
How do I get one?
Well, the problem is they caught a little bit of hell, and they removed the melatonin in something else. I remember picking one up at Wegmans, driving home with my wife. She's driving. I'm sitting in the car drinking this thing. 10 minutes later, I'm like, I feel stoned. Like it was amazing.
Right.
Like, and it was nice and mellow. I'm like, yeah. They even called it Mellow Mood after one of his hit songs, but it was pretty good. And then they said, hey, does anybody have any experience in the healthcare field with this? So I was the bad guy in that article because they're like, doctors are saying this is risky, and of course they cut to some high school dumbass who's like, yeah, I drank like 4 of these before class, and I was like, woo, and I was like, God damn it,
Yeah,
I'm like,
motherfucker.
because my argument was like, look, if used responsibly, these are supplements and herbs that are found in countless different, permutations. And like, look, if you need to unwind at the end of the day, it's either this or a crack pipe. Do this, you know. and I got painted as like this lunatic acupuncturist that doesn't care about the kid's safety. I'm like, well, that fucking kid shouldn't have drank 4 of them before math. It's like, that's not on me.
Right. Yeah, but see, like that's I guess so. So there's that, right? So there's everything that you just said. There's like this sort of editing room shenanigans. But in general, let's keep going on this bouncing ball, right? As it bounces down.
I'm slowly steering us in a direction.
No, but no, because I think it's all part of the same problem.
It
right?
absolutely is.
It's different sides of the same die, right? Like I just, anyway, next thing is that you take these studies that were done by researchers, usually legitimate researchers. And I obviously,
I got some comments on that too, man. I got
so
some
here's
comments on that too.
I was just about to retool my sentence because I was I don't want to open this up. What I'm trying to say is oftentimes the people who perform these these studies have good intentions, not all of them, but there is a huge number. I mean, it's academia, right? They're a bunch of nerds that want to learn something about something.
So this is one of the under the seedy underbellies, and this is not the regular researchers, but there are quote unquote journals, big quotes on that, where I can submit an article for a fee and you will publish it. It is not peer reviewed. And it may be something that sounds like the American Society of Neurology and whatever. And now I just put out some lame ass opinion piece. And if I get that in front of the right desk at a news station, all of a sudden, oh shit, eggs are evil. Oh shit, coffee will make you live forever. And there may be very little truth to all of that.
Right. But I guess where I'm going with that, though, is let's say you take a researcher who's like, and there's researchers on anything. Pick a weird topic. There's somebody in a lab somewhere.
There's somebody nerding out on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like totally. So like you get somebody who's like really interested in cholesterol, right? So they're like a lipid ninja, right? Like they know everything there is about it. And so if I know that person exists, which, let's be honest, these reporters who are in that field, like they know who's writing about what. So they can cherry pick. They're not doing a Google search to find out who's got good shit on lipids. They're like, nope, Bob. No, it's all Bob.
They might have organizations throwing studies at them left and right just because not only should you publish or perish, but you need to get in front of media now.
Sure. But like that person does research because they got a grant or because somebody's paying them or whatever the reason, but like they were trying to get some good information, right? They finally come up with the end of their study. They got to be fucking pumped, right? Like they're super psyched. They're like, shit, look at all this stuff we found. And then all of a sudden they put it into a paper. They write, all the right sections, and, research papers all have the same structure, right? And there's an abstract at the front, right? And it just gives you like the 1 paragraph, like short story. And from that, every asshole reporter on the fucking continent just reads 50 abstracts, picks the one that they can spin into a shit storm. And that's what we're getting.
Today. And that's the 24-hour news cycle, right?
Say what?
Oh, I said that's the 24-hour news cycle, right? I got to keep you entertained or afraid or angry.
Oh yeah, no. I get that. And I guess so, let's kind of get into an example here, because like, I think it's absolutely like a frustrating example because, I do have skin in the game in the cannabis accessory business. And so,
and I think this is such a great example of here's a little bit of knowledge that's dangerous too,
Sure. So the article title was "Overuse of Marijuana Linked to Surgery Complications and Death," study says. Now,
and we first saw this, like, let's tee it up a little. We saw this in like the local, not our local, it was a local,
a local news
kind of thing. Yeah.
And this is it's a syndicated thing. And so they talk about a study that said that chronic marijuana users had an increased chance of complications after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the headline, right? Like that's literally the headline, and they say overuse. So let's just dissect this headline for a minute, right? Like overuse of marijuana. Well,
what they didn't even quantify that. Yeah.
They do a little bit in the article, and I think it's people who smoke more than once a month. And I'm like, okay, well that is a ridiculous wide open angle. You know what I mean?
It's like, hey, did you ever go to the gym? You might be at risk for surgical complications.
Yeah, no, I mean, God. Literally, like, I mean, and so look, I know a lot of people that use cannabis, and if you look at the lens. If you look at the lens of people,
by the way, if you're not in Maryland, it just recently went recreational.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Which I think is funny. So it's funny in Maryland, it went recreational, but the menu for rec versus medical is like absurdly different.
I had the conversation at my office. They're like, "Can I just drop my card?" I'm like, "Please don't drop your card.
Don't drop your card. Yeah, don't drop your card." And so, but you know what's funny? This is take a little quick side trip here. The menu in Maryland is literally, if I'm going to guess, 33% of what you can get in medical. And I'm like sitting there going, what nonsensical fairyland nonsense is this? Like, what the fuck? It's like no edibles, no concentrates.
Well, you can, but they're all like, even the flower itself has to be under a certain THC percentage.
Well, but the whole thing is ridiculous. Like that's like saying alcohol is legal, but only Coors Light, and
you can only drink Coors Light. Some son of a bitch is going to be like, I'm going to drink 40 of them then.
Yeah, right. Like it's just fucking crazy. But it just shows a complete lack of cognitive hygiene. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, this is such stupid.
Nobody that knows the science of it was in that room approving that. I'm sure the Maryland Cannabis Commission is like, what? Just come, guys, come on. We're telling you.
And like, so like if you just look at that through the lens of two humans, one that smokes cannabis once a month and one that smokes it twice a day, the variation between those two humans is vast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so to blanket say that is just absolutely, there's no way you can possibly, this study is unperformable, by the way, if you were going to do it for real.
And like, I mean, how, first of all, even if we're talking about the patient population, what do they say? A little over 12,000 people, right? So the sample size is pretty good, but how many times, like, do you know when I go to the doctor, I'm like, I'm not going to tell him about this peptide I've been injecting for a month and a half. You know, it's like,
correct.
You know, and even I went to a periodontist the other day and he goes, do you smoke cigarettes? And I'm like, you're just asking about cigarettes, right? He goes, yeah. I was like,
that's it.
I was like, no, I do not. You know,
I do not. Right. And so that the title's a little misleading because like I don't really know what overuse means, right? Like,
well, you know, and that's the soundbite they're selling.
No, for sure. So then we keep going.
Yeah.
Link to surgery complications and death. Okay, so spoiler alert of this is they were studying people who had non-cardiac elective surgeries.
This is even screwier because normally, like, you would want a sample size just looking at one or two different surgeries, two different types of hernia, gallbladder, colon surgery, breast lump biopsy, mastectomy, hysterectomy, hip and knee replacement, spinal fusion, and lumbar disc surgery. Those are varying degrees of difficulty across the board, and it doesn't quantify how much in each group had complications. It just says an overall increase in risk.
And my guess is if one person from one of those groups got hit the bar, like it gets, now that complication gets sucked into the vortex, and it might have been one person out of 100, or out of 1,000, like, or out of 10,000. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it doesn't, it like absolutely doesn't make sense. And so like when you start looking at this,
and it doesn't even break down it tells you what the complications were, but
Sure.
it doesn't tell you what percentage each of those complications was of that total, which we haven't even mentioned the total, which is probably not statistically significant anyway. Oh, well, they're saying significant according to the authors, but
now I will say that I got to give them props a little bit for looping together many nonsensical, unrelated things and making it sound like they belong together. So I will have to tip my hat to them just a little bit. But like they have a line in here, and we're talking a couple paragraphs in, right? When they say, the study's finding is significant, the authors say. Significant.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds so professional, doesn't it? Considering prior analysis have found that nearly 3 out of 10 marijuana users develop a dependence on weed called cannabis use disorder. So full stop. Let's talk about that for a second. What does this have to do with anything about the article's title whatsoever? Like absolutely not related.
Well,
who gives a shit how many people smoke weed? It's not relevant.
What is being so they're referencing a study in JAMA surgery. So it's a legit study, but like there's so many variables here. The age of these patients was 18 to 65,
which is also untestable.
I mean, you can't compare the average healthy 18-year-old to a 65-year-old with like cardiac disease. And they're not even screening for that during this. I'm looking at it right now.
Well, no, they're not. So we keep going, right?
Yeah.
So as we keep going a little bit further, we say that smoking marijuana impacts blood flow in the brain body, decreases respiration and body temperature, contributes to airway blockages, raises blood pressure, increases heart rate, impacts heart rhythm, and more. What else does all of those things?
Smoking, diet,
correct.
Lack of exercise.
Smoking. You hit the nail on the head, like right out of the gate. Like what? Right. Step one. Smoking does all of those things. Smoking anything, clove cigarettes, Marlboro Lights, weed, pipe tobacco, fucking whatever. Put it in a rolling paper, grind it up, light it on fire. All of those things will likely happen to you. It does not fucking matter.
Matt, here's I don't want to get to the nail in the coffin type scenario for this study, but we're getting close to it, man. It is. There's so many wonky things with this that it's kind of amazing that this even got published, because like no one was saying cannabis is without risk, but I mean, God damn it. Like, remember there was a guy in England, he was the Minister of Health, and he was doing some back of the napkin kind of calculations because people were asking about psychedelics and how bad they were. And he actually got thrown out of office. But at the end of his calculations, he said, according to all the data we have, riding a horse is infinitely more dangerous than taking psychedelics. And immediately, like Nancy Reagan was just saying no right about that time. And they were like, get this guy the fuck out of here. No one's ever apologized to him. But with this particular study, they're saying this is a statistically significant difference. The people with the quote unquote cannabis use disorder, which is smoking more than once a month, which is fucking hysterical. It was 7.3% more likely than the unexposed group, which wasn't without, it was 6.57. So the difference is it's less than 1.25% if you smoke weed. or get diagnosed.
Is this your nail in the coffin moment for this?
I think I'm pretty pissed about that, because they're saying, it's occurring more frequently at a rate of 7.73 versus the unexposed, which is a rate of 6. So we're really talking about like a percentage and a quarter, not even, difference between the two groups. It's insane.
Right. So there's that, and hold on. One of my triggers on this one. It's funny that's a good point. Actually, I didn't do the math that way, but you're right, and that is maddening. One of the links that they link to here. This is the part that cracks me the fuck up. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say nail in coffin, but I do want to say when I get to this point in reading something, I'm like, I know what's going on here. I'm going to stop reading this because like you just, there's really no fucking use.
But isn't that with and this is that news cycle thing, right? We're at a time where like, oh shit, every state is going medical or recreational, and there's talk of it being like Biden was supposed to do that when he first got into the White House and all this other shit. And of course it's a hot button topic. So why not throw some fuel on the puritanical fire and be like, oh, you fucking sex having heathens, you're all smoking weeds, totally. And you're gonna die, you know. And this study is not saying
right. And then so if I go to one of the studies that they quote in the article, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a new studies that one about the new studies finding is significant out of the 3 out of 10. I was like, all right, let me go check out where that came from. So when I went over and checked that out, that article was it for the CDC actually.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a meta-analysis of several articles, and it was kind of pulling information to the top. So it wasn't a study, first of all. Let's be clear. If we're going to be pedantic assholes about this, it said one study found that 3 out of 10. Actually, no, motherfucker. The link you linked to was a meta-analysis of several studies. So it's not a fucking study, and the meta-analysis doesn't count as one. I guess
as a bunch. But that's how you would take that. So grammatically, you would kind of say it that way. Because you're looking at the meta-analysis, but they're all comparing different things. Even this JAMA one, it's like like they didn't really like they broke down by demographic, they broke down by age, but all of these people were in hospitalization. Yes, it was elective surgery, but it was probably something that needed to happen, and chances are, in most of these cases, there's an underlying condition where there's a reason why, like, you're not going to get a hysterectomy just because a woman wakes up and goes, you know what, I don't want a uterus, like it's not, it's not a boob job, man, even hip replacement. It's like, my hip fucking hurts. I
hear you. And I just think that, like, I guess one of the things that I think we got to like pull back to the surface here is that nerds like you and I will go in and tear apart an article like this and we'll just lambast it for everything, right? But like the fact of the matter is if you and I went out on the street with a microphone and asked 1,000 people to read this article and react, they'd be fucking not, I would guess that in single digit percentage point was like asking any question past, wow, where was that? Like something like that. And you're like, oh, it was on CBS affiliate station. And they're like, oh, that sounds legit. So I guess I believe that now. But here's the thing. It comes back down to volition again, right? Like if you don't thoroughly, like if you read an article and you don't thoroughly vet it, then and that's exhausting. I was talking to a family member about this a couple years ago with supplements and vitamins and stuff. They're like, but you've spent like a gazillion hours researching this. Like you've had a chance to like do that. What other people have that kind of time or ability or desire? I'm like, look, I'm a busy dude. But like, if something interests me, like I'm going to go find out. And like, if I then find information from somebody about that topic that I've done a lot of reading on and something doesn't feel right, like I'm going to respond because it's irresponsible in my book to write up something that is so, I don't even want to say biased because it's so far beyond bias. It's just,
it's so weird to me, man, because like, even if you read the limitations in the actual study on JAMA, they're like admitting that they don't really have definitive diagnoses, and the procedures that were done is all coming from billing data. It's not actually coming from patient notes.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then let's talk about the other gorilla in the room here. We kind of touched on it with the smoking cigarettes thing, but like you can do sublingual drops, you can do edibles, you could do transdermal patches,
Well, and they divulge that in the limitations too, because this study did not differentiate. Maybe you smoke once and then you're eating edibles or vaporizing or something like that. And there's different risks with each of those.
Sure.
You know,
But that's
and
what I'm saying. Like nobody's breaking that down, right? And nobody's saying,
they're like there's some pretty heavy duty limitations here. And one thing I didn't see in this is normally a biases disclosing bias. And you know, I mean, we did a show on that, but like, I don't see conflict of interest and interest disclosures, none reported. So
well, that just means nobody's working at a company that's
yeah,
profiting,
but
doesn't
like
that?
I don't see any admission to any other kind of bias, like, you know, a marijuana smoker stole my girlfriend or something, you know.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. I guess that would. Yeah. Right. Okay.
You
I
know,
see where you're going with that.
but like normally they'll have a line that says, you know, limitations. They are saying here's where we see, and they're defending some of them. You know, but they're saying the way they broke the groups, they're saying they compensated for some of it. There's a limitation inherent to retrospective observational studies, which is pretty true because now you're looking at things that have already happened. You're not setting up for them, right? You're going back and looking through, in this case, bills.
Right. And
it's a weird study, man. It's a weird study, and if
but
that is,
it's a weird study, and but I think it's too familiar with what we see on everything, right?
Everything.
And so like here's where I mean we've sort of like gone after like the hot yoga, you know, 23-year-old who just echo chambers, you know, whatever the health hack du jour is. And like the problem with that is that those are the groups of people, and the followers of those people are the people who sort of fan this ember into a forest fire, right? And like then it just becomes annoying because, you know, people who come to me or you or, you know, people and places that you and I are in, then you're in this whole conversation about something that's completely fucking stupid to begin with. And you're like, oh, we have to unwind all the many ways this is stupid before I could even answer your question. Like, you know, it's.
Well, you know, what I find funny is the person reading this article might be sitting there with a whiskey and a cigar.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, it's like, what is it really going to move the needle for anybody? You know how many people still smoke? They literally put causes cancer on the side of those fucking things.
It's in big white. I mean, I saw a pack of cigarettes for the first time in a while. There's a big sign that says like, this causes cancer, period. Like it's just not even.
I forgot what country it was, but they're like, this will end up killing you.
Sure.
Like they were just like make it as bold as skull and crossbones on the side of it. And somebody's like, I want to smoke those.
Yeah. I want to smoke those. Yeah, 100%. Well, speaking of killing you, another version of this story is the one that came out that I just saw today. I think it might have come out before, but
I think it hit
WHO
recently.
is talking about aspartame being possibly carcinogenic.
You know, and this is funny because this is one of those areas where like we're seeing it from what we would call credible sources, right? WHO and the FDA, and it appeared on NPR, right? You think, hey, those are three names that have some reputation and some meaning, and depending on what your opinion is of the FDA and the World Health Organization, and I guess NPR, you know, you're going to swing one way or another. But
so there's a whole bunch of asterisks with this though, and like none of the asterisks are called out, right? So again, let's apples to apples this thing. The article on NPR, like to your point, it's a very reputable source, right?
Yeah.
WHO says aspartame is a possible carcinogen. The FDA disagrees. First of all, I'm a type nerd. They put a foot marker instead of an apostrophe, and that is maddening to me because like it should auto do this for you, and if it doesn't, like you're just a fucking idiot who doesn't know better. But anyway, font typography nerding out aside,
don't they have Grammarly at NPR?
Yeah, right. Fucking seriously, man. Like,
Grammarly would have fixed that.
I do this at billboards on the highway. You see this all the time. They'll put something in quotes and it's actually inch marker, like, you know, and you're like, no, fucking douchebag. That's an inch. That means inches. It's not a quote. like it's not a thing.
Know what? It's funny because I told you we're in the copy edit round of my book, and apparently I write with a lot of M dashes, but I don't use M dashes.
Oh, right.
So they're like, no, this isn't an interjection. You need an M dash here, not a comma, bro.
And you're like, Wow. Yeah, exactly.
And then when they edited it, it's like, oh yeah, I talk like that.
Yeah, I talk like that. Totally. 100%. So if you read this article though, the WHO does in fact say it's possibly carcinogenic, but the emphasis on possible cannot be overstated here. Like and the thing is they
Well,
classify
they
this.
even say limited. They have limited evidence.
So they have
Right?
limited evidence, but they also grouped it in what's called Group 2B, and it's the actual lowest grade of carcinogenic. So it's basically like, you know what else is in there? Aloe vera is in the same group, right? Like so you're like sitting there going, what was the other thing in that group? Oh, pickled vegetables. Like, and meanwhile, pickled vegetables are probably one of the biggest sources of health benefits that you could possibly fucking imagine.
Yeah,
So on what planet a pickled anything is fucking carcinogenic?
God, if you start saying that, you're gonna have like the fucking hippies revolting. What do you mean I can't eat fermented foods?
Oh my God, are you serious? Like, but I mean, but that's just, I mean, again, that just goes back to blatant stupidity. Kimchi.
I apologize to hippies. I'm like half hippie.
Yeah, but like anybody who knows anything about anything hippie at all knows that fucking fermented vegetables and fermented pretty much anything is like fucking stellar for your body.
I mean,
like,
they're just sitting around smoking joints and eating, pickled meats
kimchi
and stuff,
yeah, right. So, but like, here's the thing: like, how many people know? First of all, let's break this down real quick. How many people know what the designator 2B is? Now, I had to look it up because I knew what the designator was. I didn't remember the nuance of that scale, obviously. So like, but I knew enough to ask the question, like, oh, what's the scale of carcinogens? And it's 2B is the lowest one. But like, I still felt like that needed qualification, right? Like I saw that, and even if I didn't know what they were referring to,
and
literally, like, what does that mean?
Is possibly carcinogenic to humans, right? It's still possibly, and I love this study because they're saying like 12 cans of Diet Coke would be the amount that they're looking at per day for the average person.
Which I definitely know people that drink 12 cans of Diet Coke.
I do, but I would say that, like, oh my God, I'm taking a shot. So that is a body weight of 130 pounds. How many American adults do you know that are 130 pounds that aren't a 5 foot tall woman?
None.
I mean, God, dude, I eat a meal and I'm 10 pounds heavier. There's no,
sure.
like, according to this, I could probably be safe with 23 cans of Coke. Diet Coke a day.
Right. And that was the argument back into the 80s. I remember when people were like, yeah, aspartame. Actually, it was about aspartame as well. Sweet and Low. Remember when Sweet and Low?
And that's essentially aspartame, isn't it?
Is it Sweet and Low? Okay.
Well, because Splenda is desucralose. Now I got to check it out.
Yeah, no, one of them is equal. I don't remember if it was equal or Sweet and Low.
I never use them, so like it's not something
that I think aspartame is an equal, but I could.
Sweet and Low. Yeah, you're right. Aspartame is equal. Sweet and Low is saccharin.
That's right, saccharin. I couldn't remember the other name for it. Right.
And that's still on the shelves, and that's been
my dad used to be like,
for years.
Sure. And my dad used to be like, sure, if I eat 100 packets of this shit in a day, I'd be probably dead. But
I've told you I really like that guy BioLane, right? The PhD, and he takes swings at a lot of the big. He was up in arms about this article, so I'm glad we're talking about it because it's pretty timely. But
what was he saying about it? Like, why didn't he like it?
I mean, one of the things that I didn't see his full report on this specific one. But he does have a video where he's drinking a Diet Coke just to piss people off.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He's like, look, guys, but it's like the same thing, right? We Americans, I would say humans don't do moderation well. We don't like being told. We want black and white. We want this is bad. This is good. And we all know it's all more nuanced than that, everything. But to get you to have a feeling or an opinion about something with a limited information, this is what this article feels like to me. Now, personally, I'm not going to use aspartame. I don't like the way it tastes.
I don't like the way it tastes, and I know too much about the shit that stuff does to you to like ever put that shit in my body. And I'm like
Yeah.
a labeled Nazi at
Well,
my house.
now,
Like I don't.
one of the things they did say
I
is
when
it
I
does.
when I yeah,
Go
no,
ahead,
I'm
man.
not. We're not a high fructose corn syrup family. We're not an aspartame family. We're not. No, it's hard
Yeah.
pass.
But aspartame is supposed to alter your gut biome, right? Oh, well, that's not good. Yeah, but we don't know if that's good or
Right.
bad. We don't know how it's altering it. I would probably avoid it just because it does, but like I'm not going, "Oh shit, dude, you're going to die if you drink that." You know? I think it's kind of funny that we're so these little titles with like the limited research and even with decent research are so scary for people.
Sorry, I lost you there.
Oh no, sorry, man. I was going, so hopefully that stitches together
Yeah.
nicely.
No, yeah, no worries. But like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, like it's hard to. It's a hard article to get my head around because it is. It's not. I mean, again, it's selling this anti-aspartame thing, which I happen to agree with. But in deference to the article, I mean, it's not a super great article. Like, I mean, it leads you to believe one thing pretty pointedly when that's really not even what the WHO is saying.
No.
Like that's not even the point they were trying to make. Like that's it. In fact, there's so little data on here. I'm even curious why the fucking WHO said anything at all. It seemed like they're not even to a conclusion yet.
Well, but if I'm just like let's say I'm presenting you with here's the research we found, it's leaning a little this way. I mean, for them to confirm something as true, the database they need to even say it is so much more than to say there's a possibility, right?
Sure.
So it seems like World Health Organization may be doing it the right way. I think, we can say what we say about the FDA. The FDA is, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But we know that, like, if you have people in certain industries running a government organization.
Yeah, I mean, the FDA's bought and sold 10 ways from Sunday. Like, it's hard to.
I'm sure the WHO is too. I'm not saying that, but it's the players, right? So it's like, yeah, the Americans are going to fuck the Americans,
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, I guess the point was, and it's like those are just two like recent examples. I mean, but it seems like in this sort of age of clickbait journalism that we're just really just that's where we've come down to. So I guess like the salient point here is like you just got to really watch what the fuck you're reading. Man.
Yeah,
like,
and look, it's just that
be a goddamn ninja these days to fucking weed this stuff out.
The information is coming faster than it ever has, so the ability to fleece somebody is even more. And now that we know that, like, the media is owned by like a handful of people, and we know this is, like these organizations are being sponsored even though they're not supposed to be, and they hire people that they're not supposed to hire. How much is this research worth? And I can say that about anything, but in this case, what's the twist? Is there a new sweetener coming out? Is there going to be a new, like next week?
There's going to be a new like aloe vera based sweetener that's
in Chinese medicine. We use that as what they call a moist laxative. So I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're putting aloe vera as a laxative, then I don't know.
It's funny. So we use it a lot, and a lot of integrated practitioners will take that have patients take that internally to help soothe the lining. In very much the same way that you would put it on a sunburn.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right. I feel like I'm taking a sharp turn there.
No, yeah, but it's funny actually. In one of the articles I was reading, they found actually that THC another one of the rabbit hole articles in this whole what we talked about today was an article that said THC increased incidence of atherosclerosis and basically it had something to do with a nitric oxide disruptor. And I haven't I haven't really looked down this rabbit hole. I want to because I want, and if you know anything about it, I'd be definitely curious.
I think Dr. Amen at the Brain Clinic. I think he's of a similar ilk talking about brain function with that, right? It's shutting down circulation to the brain by hardening those. But it's funny because I remember seeing something, and it probably wasn't THC, but another cannabinoid is responsible for angiogenesis, which means it's forming new blood vessels. And I remember, like, we're having this conversation now. Remember when COVID was all big and we heard that article about some of the cannabinoids being anti-COVID,
Oh, yeah.
and we're like,
Yeah.
that's why we haven't gotten it. Like, I don't remember looking deep into those studies. I'm like, yeah,
I did not look deep into those
CBG
studies. Well, actually, that's
CBD,
not actually.
yeah, that's why they haven't gotten COVID.
That's actually not true. I did look into, not at first. I was super psyched when at first, being honest, but like when more and more of it came out, my echo chamber meter started to go off, and I was like, let me see about this. And and like, look, those studies weren't as egregious as what we talked about tonight, for sure. But like, the studies were everybody was trying to get information with very little that was out there. So they were piecing together sort of flimsy, semi, if not fully unrelated articles to try to form a narrative around it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, a year or two after that, right, you started to see, and vitamin D was the same thing, actually. Those two were kind of almost identical trajectories. And, a year later, real research had happened. And as it coincidentally, and I will fully say that, coincidentally, they ended up being right. But it wasn't because their scientific method or hypothesis prediction was like great. It was because they got fucking lucky.
Yeah,
or this study just happened to be right and support this new evidence that was, in fact, much more bound by research than not.
Anyway, we lost Matt for a second. That's okay. I think the point he was making was, they got lucky. Oh, he's going to be back in a second.
Yeah. No, I'm back. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I mean, they got lucky. Yeah, exactly. Right. They got lucky, or their data just happened to correlate. Right. And it's, it is what it is, but yeah, I mean, that was just a lucky guess. But the problem is they had motivation to keep at it, right? Like, so like they had a thread they were pulling at, and they're like, well, fucking what stops people from dying from COVID? Like, they'll fucking research anything. Like, anything to save lives would sell articles. Therefore, it was important. Right. So and
they would create a market for people to go crazy on it,
And so both sides of that equation would have motivation to continue that work, right? Yeah. Researchers could sell compounds or supplements or drugs or lifestyle books on how to do the thing that they find prevents COVID death. And the news could sell salacious clickbait headlines and sell more of their thing. And so everybody kind of won in that equation. But like, unlike the aspartame thing, which has been kind of raging since the 80s. Like, we've been talking about aspartame.
We've been talking about artificial sweeteners. Man, you're starting to see some stuff come out about stevia might not be so good. And
yeah. It's all going to break down.
And then, everybody go back to just eating pounds of sugar a day. That seemed to work.
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly. Right. Enjoy your fucking diabetes. Anyway, we can wax on about this forever. What are you up to, man? What are you getting involved with?
I gotta say, I'm just trying to hold it together now. We've got so many irons in the fire at the office, and I'm having a good time. So I'm pretty excited about some stuff. I don't want to open my mouth yet. I got some bids out there for certain contracts, and we'll see what happens.
I mean, I love growth, man. I mean, I think 23 is, for both of us in different ways, is like, has been a weird, but when you draw a line through the candlestick graph of the year, it's going in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right,
it's a shakeup. It's a shakeup, but it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, there's a major shakeup for sure. And I think that's I think that would be my answer for today as well. It's like, kind of like, just trying to keep it together. My whiteboard of long-term project has got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 things on it. Like, that's 12 separate long-term projects that I'm tracking at once. I had to actually buy a whiteboard with a pack of colored markers.
I'm looking at my tabs open on the screen right now, and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm like, I got 8 things.
I've got a lot of things that I got to track right now. Yeah. But cool, man. Well, listen, hope you don't stop doing this with me. And
oh man, this is fun. We just show up and have a good time. It's pretty awesome.
I love it. All right, man. See you next week.
Take it easy.
Later.
All right.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.